Nicholas was raised by his grandmother, Margarita, with little knowledge about his parents. Although the boy would ask, she only mentioned that his mother had passed away and his father had left town, never to return. Despite this, Nicholas received plenty of love until a sudden illness struck Margarita, leading to him being placed in an orphanage. Despite the hardships, Nicholas never allowed himself to be discouraged, and after a short time at the orphanage, he found a way to sneak out each night to earn money by singing, with the goal of paying for his grandmother's surgery. However, he never could have imagined that his life was about to change forever. At 14, Nicholas began living among the long hallways and quiet courtyards of an orphanage in Curitiba. Although the place had a calm routine, it also carried the weight of absence. Even at such a young age, Nicholas already bore the burden of a great responsibility. His life had drastically changed in recent months, ever since his grandmother, Margarita, fell ill. She was his only family, and the news that she needed urgent surgery devastated the boy. With no means to cover the medical expenses, Nicholas found himself at a loss, unsure of how to save the woman who had raised him with so much love. Moreover, with Margarita unable to care for him, the boy was sent to the orphanage. One rainy morning, as he gazed out of the orphanage's dusty window, Nicholas felt a mixture of despair and a glimmer of hope, knowing he needed to do something extraordinary to raise money. While exploring a box of memories he kept under his bed, Nicholas found an old photo of his grandmother, Margarita, smiling on a stage, holding a microphone. It reminded him of his own singing talent. He had always sung for his grandmother, filling their home with music and joy. Now, this talent might be the key to saving Margarita. Remembering his grandmother's passion for music, Nicholas decided he needed to find a way to perform in front of an audience, as this was his only chance to earn some money. After doing some research, he discovered that a local restaurant, Villa Churrasco Grill, hosted live performances. This could be the place where his voice would be heard and, hopefully, bring in some financial support. With unwavering determination, he resolved to go there the next day. When the restaurant opened, Nicholas arrived at Villa Churrasco Grill on a cloudy afternoon. With its warm and sophisticated atmosphere, the place felt worlds apart from the orphanage's reality. Nicholas took in the surroundings as he approached the counter, where Teodoro Valente, the restaurant's owner, kept an eye on the customers. Teodoro was a middle-aged man with a rigid posture, yet his gaze hinted at a hidden generosity beneath a stern exterior. Nicholas approached, blending nervousness with hope. "Sir, I need a job," he began, trying to keep his voice steady, though his eyes betrayed the desperation he was trying to hide. Teodoro raised an eyebrow, surprised to see a child in that setting. "You're just a boy," Teodoro replied, doubtful. "This is no place for children." But Nicholas wasn't discouraged. "Art knows no age. I can sing. Please give me a chance. I really need this opportunity." Teodoro studied Nicholas critically, but something in his determination and the seriousness in his expression made him pause. He knew it was rare to see someone so young be so resolute, which sparked a mixture of curiosity and compassion within him. "All right," Teodoro finally said with a sigh. "I'll listen to you sing. If you have real talent, I'll give you a chance." Nicholas took a deep breath, feeling a mix of relief and nervousness. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. He closed his eyes for a moment, preparing to use his voice, filled not only with talent but with the hope of saving the person he loved most. Drawing a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, he closed his eyes again, seeking an intimate connection with the song he was about to perform. The melody he chose, Eu Sei Que Vou Te Amar, by Tom Jobim, began to flow from his lips with a clarity that stunned everyone in the restaurant. As Nicholas started to sing, the atmosphere at Villa Churrasco Grill seemed to transform into something magical. His voice, though youthful, carried a depth and intensity that filled the space. Each note was delivered with precision, and every pause conveyed genuine emotion. The music didn't just fill the room. It touched the hearts of everyone present. The customers, who had been engrossed in their conversations and enjoying their meals, gradually fell silent, captivated by the beauty of his performance. The hum of conversation gave way to a respectful and enthralled attention. The next few minutes passed as if they were seconds. When Nicholas finished, the final note echoed through the restaurant, leaving a stunned silence hanging in the air, charged with an almost tangible admiration. For a brief moment, it seemed as though time had stopped for everyone. Then, as if the spell had been broken, the room erupted into thunderous applause. The clapping resounded with an intensity that mirrored the shared emotion, and many of the patrons stood, enthusiastically applauding. Teodoro Valente, who had been watching from behind the counter, observed the performance with a look of deep surprise. He had encountered many talented individuals and witnessed countless performances, but the sincerity and strength in Nicholas's voice were undeniable. As the applause finally began to die down, Teodoro approached Nicholas with a smile, though his expression remained serious. "You've got talent, kid," Teodoro said, his voice filled with both admiration and authority. "I'm going to offer you a job, but there are two conditions. You must keep your grades high at school, and you can't tell anyone about this arrangement." "Got it." Nicholas, still catching his breath and full of adrenaline, felt a wave of relief and gratitude, knowing this was the chance he needed to raise money for his grandmother's surgery. "I understand, Mr. Valente," Nicholas replied confidently. "I'll stick to the deal, thank you so much." Teodoro nodded, satisfied with the boy's response. "Good, you'll start tomorrow. We'll go over the details, but I want you to know that despite the rules, I'm here to help you however I can." Nicholas left the restaurant feeling a renewed sense of hope. As he walked back to the orphanage, the burden on his shoulders seemed lighter. The night descending over Curitiba appeared less daunting, and Nicholas was determined to make the most of every opportunity that came his way. At the orphanage, Denise, the cook, was a near-maternal figure to all the children, though her special fondness for Nicholas was apparent to everyone. In her 50s, with gray hair tied in a simple bun, she exuded a comforting presence that made everyone feel more secure. Her gentle and understanding voice provided a sense of solace that many of the orphanage's residents couldn't find elsewhere. That evening, as the aroma of dinner wafted through the kitchen, Nicholas, with a nervous look and a hint of secrecy in his demeanor, approached Denise. She was arranging utensils and preparing the day's dessert, a task that often distracted her from any worries. Nicholas waited until the last child left the kitchen, and with a determined expression, he said, "Denise, I need to tell you something." His voice wavered slightly. "I got a job at a restaurant, the Villa Churrasco Grill. Mr. Valente gave me a chance to sing there." Denise raised her eyebrows, both surprised and concerned. "A job? But you're so young. Are you sure about this? Won't it be hard to balance with your studies and life at the orphanage?" Nicholas shook his head, his eyes shining with hope. "I'll work hard to keep up with my grades and my responsibilities. I need this job to help my grandmother. She's very ill, and I want to do everything I can to pay for her surgery." Denise sighed, her soft eyes filled with empathy. She knew Nicholas was a determined boy, and her concern wasn't just about the job itself, but also the effort and sacrifice it would require. "If you're this determined, I'll help you," she said with an encouraging smile. "But you have to promise me you'll be careful. We don't want you to get hurt or overwhelmed." Nicholas smiled, relieved, and quickly nodded. "I promise, Denise. I just need a little help sneaking out of the orphanage at night without the other kids or the director noticing." The cook thought for a moment and then agreed. "I'll help you slip out every night. Once the other kids are asleep, I'll open the back door for you. It's the most discreet way." The plan was set. Every night, after the corridor lights were turned off and the orphanage was enveloped in silence, Denise prepared for the routine of letting Nicholas out. Each step was accompanied by a mix of pride and concern. For Nicholas, Denise's support filled him with deep gratitude. Every night, he patiently waited for the signal to head to the restaurant, his mind focused on his mission. Each time he slipped through the back door, he felt the weight of the world on his shoulders, but also a growing certainty that he was on the right path. One particular evening at Villa Churrasco Grill, the restaurant was especially elegant. The tables were draped in white linens, and candles were lit, creating a warm and sophisticated atmosphere. Among the guests was Roberta Costa, a wealthy businesswoman in her early 40s, who had recently moved to the city. Used to a strict routine, her visits to the restaurant were part of her effort to adjust to her new life. Seated at the table closest to the stage, Roberta observed the activity around her, though her gaze seemed distant, as if she were lost in restless thoughts. Something about that evening had caught her attention, though she couldn't quite pinpoint what it was. Nicholas stepped onto the stage. The restaurant was filled with lively murmurs, and many patrons eagerly awaited the performance. Roberta, with her keen gaze and poised demeanor, barely noticed the young figure preparing to sing. However, the moment Nicholas sang his first note, something inside Roberta shifted. His voice was clear, and the melodies he sang seemed to strike a chord deep within her memory. In that instant, Roberta's eyes widened. There was something about the tone of Nicholas's voice that stirred intense and long-buried memories. The notes resonated like a distant echo from a past she had tried to forget. She thought of Andre, the man she had once loved with all her heart, who had tragically passed away years ago. The resemblance was haunting, and Roberta felt a tightness in her chest that grew stronger as the music played on. The pain spread like a relentless fire, and Roberta stood up from her chair, trying to escape the overwhelming sensation engulfing her. The world around her began to spin. Her legs weakened, her vision blurred, and the sounds of the restaurant faded into a distant hum. The tightness in her chest became unbearable, and with one last effort, she grabbed the table before collapsing to the floor. The fall was muffled by the restaurant's buzz, but soon concerned shouts filled the air. "Call an ambulance!" Teodoro Valente yelled, rushing toward Roberta with a look of panic and worry. Although he was used to handling various situations in the restaurant, this was entirely different. He knelt beside Roberta, trying to remain calm while his mind raced for a solution. The restaurant staff quickly sprang into action. Some reached for the phone to call emergency services, while others tried to calm and move the customers away. Chaos briefly erupted as everyone focused on helping Roberta, now lying pale and unconscious on the floor. Nicholas, still standing on stage after his performance, heard the commotion and saw the scene unfold. Worried, he attempted to step off the stage to understand what was happening, but seeing Roberta collapsed and the confusion surrounding her left him frozen and helpless. He knew that whatever had caused that reaction was serious, and the weight of the situation added a new layer of tension to the evening. The night at Villa Churrasco Grill ended in turmoil as paramedics tended to Roberta. Still shaken, Nicholas descended from the stage and approached Teodoro, who was by Roberta's side, trying to comfort her while ensuring the proper help was on its way. "It's not your fault, Nicholas," Teodoro said firmly, his voice calm and reassuring. "It was an accident, and there's no reason for you to blame yourself." The next day, Nicholas decided to visit the hospital. His mind was filled with questions, and he felt an urgent need to make sure Roberta was okay. The walk to the hospital was filled with nervous anticipation. He wondered why he felt so concerned about the well-being of a woman he barely knew. There was something about her that seemed connected to a part of his own life, and it unsettled him. When Nicholas arrived at the hospital and was shown to Roberta's room, he found her resting in bed, looking fragile. Her eyes, initially closed, opened when she sensed someone's presence. She gazed at him with curiosity and weakness. "Who are you?" Roberta asked softly. "I'm Nicholas," he replied gently. "I sing at the restaurant where you collapsed." Roberta stared at Nicholas, and an expression of confusion and surprise crossed her face. Up close, Nicholas's resemblance to Andre, her lost love, was even more unsettling. She felt a sharp pain in her chest, mixed with an uneasy feeling. "Do you know anyone named Andre?" she asked in a near whisper. Nicholas shook his head, bewildered. "No, I don't know anyone by that name. I live in an orphanage. My grandmother is ill, and she raised me after my father left." Roberta pondered to herself, could this boy have any connection to Andre? I need to learn more about him. Meanwhile, at the restaurant, Teodoro and Denise discussed the recent events and what they might mean for Nicholas's future. The owner of Villa Churrasco Grill had called the orphanage's cook for a private conversation after the incident from the previous night. Seated at one of the tables, Teodoro looked at Denise with a concerned expression. "He reminds me of someone," Teodoro said in frustration. "But I can't figure out who." Denise nodded, equally reflective. "He's definitely special. There's something about him that's hard to put into words, but it's clear he has a unique presence. We need to protect him and make sure he has the chance to follow his path without disruptions." Teodoro agreed, understanding the seriousness of the situation. "Yes, and we also need to consider what Roberta is searching for. If there's any connection to the past, we must be ready for anything. Nicholas needs to be kept safe, and we should support him as much as we can." As the fates of Roberta and Nicholas began to intertwine in unexpected ways, the complexities of the ties between the past and present started to unfold. In the days following the incident at the restaurant, Nicholas continued his routine with unwavering determination. Every night, as he stepped onto the stage at Villa Churrasco Grill, his voice filled the room with a blend of emotion and inspiration. The money from his performances was slowly accumulating, and with each show, he felt one step closer to his goal, raising the funds needed for his grandmother Margarita's surgery. Meanwhile, Roberta was recovering from her heart attack in the hospital. The experience had shaken her, not only physically but also due to the persistent feeling that Nicholas had some unexplainable connection to her past. Even under medical care, her mind remained restless, drifting through old memories and a strong sense of déjà vu that she couldn't quite explain. One night, after another successful performance, Teodoro Valente decided it was time to understand more about the motivation behind Nicholas's remarkable dedication. He had been observing the boy with growing admiration, moved by his passion and perseverance. Teodoro called Nicholas aside for a private conversation, hoping to clear up some lingering questions. "You're incredible, Nicholas," Teodoro began with a tone of genuine admiration. "But I need to know why you're doing this. What's your reason?" Nicholas took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his mission and the trust he had built with Teodoro. He knew it was time to open up. "My grandmother is sick," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "She needs surgery, and it's very expensive. I'm trying to raise money to help her. She's raised me ever since my father left, but I had to go to the orphanage when she fell ill. Now, I want to do everything I can to take care of her." Teodoro listened intently, his heart heavy with Nicholas's difficult situation. The boy's story was moving, filled with a courage that deeply touched him. "I'm going to help you, Nicholas," Teodoro said with a look of determination. "You're not alone in this. I'll do everything I can to help you reach your goal." Teodoro's words brought a sense of relief to Nicholas, who felt a renewed strength to continue his journey. The certainty that he had Teodoro's support, along with the restaurants, revived his energy and hope. In the days that followed, as Nicholas continued his performances and Roberta recovered in the hospital, fragments of their pasts began to intertwine in curious ways. Now more lucid and with time to reflect, Roberta couldn't shake the feeling that there was something significant linking Nicholas to Andre, her former love. One afternoon, Roberta lay in her hospital bed, feeling a sense of unease and restlessness that manifested not only in her body but also in her mind. Every time she closed her eyes, memories of Andre returned to haunt her with painful clarity. Andre had been an overwhelming presence in her life, a love that had consumed her completely and then left abruptly. Years later, Roberta was still trying to make sense of what had happened to him, and his absence had never truly been resolved. The resemblance between Nicholas and Andre was striking and unsettling. It was as if the young singer carried a piece of Roberta's past, stirring up a whirlwind of emotions she had long tried to bury. Roberta often recalled the traits they shared: Andre's smile, the tone of his voice, and even certain gestures that Nicholas unconsciously mirrored during moments of introspection. In the hospital, Roberta began searching for more information about Nicholas online, but she found nothing. She wondered if there could be a real connection between the young man and the one she had loved. Her thoughts were a tangle of hope and pain, as she tried to piece together a puzzle that seemed impossible to solve. The restlessness kept her awake for hours, and she knew she needed to uncover more to understand the connection she felt, while battling with her emotions and thoughts. Nicholas maintained his routine at Villa Churrasco Grill, and his performances grew increasingly popular, drawing a larger audience each night. The restaurant, now filled with a fresh energy and an expanding clientele, became a showcase for Nicholas's talent and dedication. The quality of his performances turned the venue into one of the most sought after in the city. Moreover, Teodoro began playing a pivotal role in Nicholas's life. More than just his employer, Teodoro became a father figure to the young boy. He not only oversaw the performances but also looked after Nicholas's well-being, regularly offering wise advice and words of encouragement. Teodoro made sure Nicholas was safe, well-fed, and most importantly, that he didn't become overwhelmed by his responsibilities. The relationship between Teodoro and Nicholas developed naturally and genuinely. Teodoro saw not only a promising talent but also a young man with a pure heart and a noble cause. He deeply admired Nicholas's determination to care for his grandmother and was committed to helping him in any way he could. On one particularly busy night, after the restaurant had closed, the atmosphere was calm and quiet. The lights at Villa Churrasco Grill had been turned off, but the faint echoes of the last musical notes still lingered between the empty walls. Teodoro and Nicholas sat together at one of the tables, now disheveled, still reflecting the vibrant energy of the evening's service. With a look of pride, Teodoro observed Nicholas sitting across from him. The soft glow of a lamp in the corner cast a warm shadow over them, creating a peaceful ambience after the bustle of the performances. "You have a real gift, Nicholas," Teodoro said in a warm and sincere voice. "I'm truly proud of you." Nicholas smiled, but the worry on his face was still visible. "Thank you, Teodoro, but I'm still concerned if this will be enough to help my grandmother." Sensing the boy's anxiety, Teodoro gently placed a hand on his shoulder. "We'll make sure she gets the help she needs. I've already told you you're doing an amazing job, and I'll be with you until your grandmother is well." These words of encouragement brought Nicholas some temporary relief, but he still carried the weight of responsibility. His determination was strong, but the concern for his grandmother's health lingered. Meanwhile, Denise, the dedicated cook at the orphanage, continued to play a crucial role in Nicholas's life. Every night, after dinner, she helped him sneak out of the orphanage unnoticed, ensuring he arrived on time for his performances. Her care for Nicholas was genuine, and she did everything in her power to support him in his mission. The relationship between Denise and Teodoro, which began with mutual respect, gradually deepened over time. Their discussions about Nicholas and the strategies to help him created a bond that went beyond the professional. They found comfort and understanding in each other, sharing not only their concerns for Nicholas's well-being, but also the challenges and joys that came with their responsibilities. Teodoro and Denise often met to talk about how they could improve Nicholas's situation. These conversations were always filled with a shared sense of hope and a genuine desire to help. They would spend hours going over details, always searching for ways to offer the best possible support to the young singer. One calm evening, with all the children at the orphanage already asleep, the atmosphere seemed set for another one of Nicholas's missions. He was eager for another performance at Villa Churrasco Grill and was preparing to leave when Denise walked into the living room with a small, carefully wrapped package. Curious, Nicholas glanced at the package and raised an eyebrow. "What's this?" he asked, his tone revealing both surprise and anticipation. Denise smiled, her eyes shining with affection. "It's an outfit," she said, handing him the package. "I thought you might like something special for your performances. I want you to have something that reflects your talent. Tonight, I'll be there to watch you sing." Nicholas's eyes lit up with genuine excitement as he began to unwrap the package. Carefully, he peeled back the wrapping to reveal a shimmering suit with a soft glow that seemed to catch the light in an almost magical way. The suit was elegant and refined, with a cut that perfectly matched the style of his performances. "Thank you, Denise," Nicholas said, his eyes sparkling with emotion. "It's perfect. I don't know how to thank you enough." Denise smiled warmly, her heart full at seeing Nicholas's happiness. "You're welcome, dear," Now go and shine. You deserve to show the world how special you are." Dressed in the suit, feeling deep gratitude and pride, Nicholas knew that Denise had chosen every detail with care. This only strengthened his resolve to give his best on stage. After one last glance in the mirror, adjusting the suit to make sure he looked flawless, he left the orphanage, confident for another night of performances. That night, the shimmer of the suit sparkled under the streetlights, reflecting the same energy and hope that Nicholas carried with him to the stage. Nicholas's performances at Villa Churrasco Grill continued to draw growing crowds, and his presence, especially in the new suit, added a touch of magic to his shows. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Roberta had recovered well, but her curiosity about Nicholas hadn't faded. The resemblance between the young singer and Andre continued to unsettle her, and her desire to learn more about him grew more urgent by the day. As soon as Nicholas stepped onto the stage, the restaurant immediately quieted down, and the patrons eagerly focused their attention on the young performer. He began to sing, and his voice quickly filled the room, infusing it with deep emotion. Every note seemed to resonate with sincerity and passion, and his performance carried an intensity that captivated everyone in attendance. Sitting in the back, Roberta also watched closely. As Nicholas sang, the resemblance to Andre became increasingly apparent to her. It was as if every movement and note echoed a distant past. The way Nicholas moved on stage, the depth of his voice, and even how he connected with the audience all stirred memories Roberta had tried to bury. Her eyes remained fixed on Nicholas, and her mind raced to understand the connection. The impact of Nicholas's performance was heightened by her emotional state, making every detail feel even more significant. As the music came to an end, the audience remained in reverent silence, fully absorbed by his performance. Roberta felt a mix of shock and hope as she tried to process what she was experiencing. Nicholas's talent and presence were clearly tied to something deeper, and the feeling that he might be connected to Andre overwhelmed her. As the last note of Nicholas's performance faded into the air and the restaurant returned to its usual post-show chatter, Roberta stood from her seat in the back and walked determinedly toward the counter, where Teodoro Valente was organizing things and greeting customers. Still under the influence of the performance, Roberta, with her emotions running high, approached. "Excuse me, Mr. Valente," Roberta said, her voice slightly trembling and filled with tension. She tried to remain composed, but her concern was evident in every word. "I need to talk to you about Nicholas." Upon hearing Nicholas's name, Teodoro looked up at Roberta, and his expression became cautious. He immediately recognized her as the woman who had fainted during one of the young singer's performances. There was something familiar in Roberta's appearance and the way she spoke that made Teodoro realize the story might be more complicated than he had initially thought. "Of course, but what do you want to know?" he asked, trying to keep his tone neutral while carefully studying Roberta's expression. Roberta took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. "I believe Nicholas might be related to someone I knew a long time ago, someone very close to him, possibly his father. This means we may share a strong connection. Can you tell me more about his story?" Teodoro hesitated, the internal conflict evident on his face. He was aware of the importance of Nicholas's privacy and had promised to protect him from any unwanted interference. "Nicholas is an orphan. His mother passed away, and his father left town," Teodoro began, his voice filled with sadness and concern. "He lives at the local orphanage and sings here to raise money for his grandmother's surgery. She's the one who cared for him before her illness sent him to the orphanage." Teodoro's words hit Roberta like a wave. The thought that Nicholas was facing such a harsh reality alone, just to help his grandmother, deeply moved her. Her heart ached at the idea of such a talented and determined young man living through such hardship. "I need to speak with him," Roberta pleaded, her voice almost desperate. "Please, it's important. I need to know if there's a connection to the past." Teodoro looked at Roberta, weighing whether he should grant her request. He knew Nicholas was in a delicate situation and didn't want to complicate his life further with external issues. However, seeing the sincerity and pain in Roberta's eyes, he realized that this conversation might be crucial for everyone involved. "All right," Teodoro agreed reluctantly. I'll call Nicholas to talk to you, but please, be careful with what you ask. He already has enough on his plate. Teodoro went to fetch Nicholas, while Roberta waited anxiously, hoping to find the answers she had been searching for and to understand the powerful connection she felt. For her, this moment could reveal truths that would change the lives of everyone involved. Teodoro called Nicholas, who was in the dressing room preparing for his next performance. The young singer, still dressed in his shimmering suit, approached the table with a mix of curiosity and nervousness. He knew Roberta Costa, the woman who had fainted during one of his performances, was waiting for him. "Nicholas, this is Ms. Costa," Teodoro said, introducing Roberta. "She would like to speak with you." Nicholas politely greeted Roberta, offering a smile that hid some of his apprehension. "Hello, Ms. Costa. How can I help you?" Roberta took a deep breath, trying to keep her emotions in check. It was crucial to remain calm so as not to overwhelm the young boy. "Nicholas, I need to ask you something very important. Do you know anything about your parents? Specifically about your father?" Nicholas shook his head, puzzled. "Unfortunately, I don't know much. My father left me with my grandmother when I was very young because my mother passed away. I don't even remember his name, because my grandmother never told me." The revelation struck Roberta like a blow, her eyes widening in surprise. "Your grandmother never told you anything about your father?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. As Nicholas paused, attempting to recall, "She always used to say that my father had a great gift for music, just like I do, but that's all I know." Roberta felt a mix of hope and despair upon hearing this description, which seemed to match the man she had once loved. "I knew someone just like that. His name was Andre, and he had an incredible voice. We parted ways almost 15 years ago," Roberta said. Nicholas, intrigued and a bit anxious, asked, "Do you think my father could be this Andre?" Roberta nodded slowly as she tried to connect the dots in her mind. "It's possible. The similarity in talent, the way you sing, everything seems to fit. We need to speak with your grandmother. Maybe she can confirm if Andre was really your father. If this is true, I don't know how I'll handle it. I never imagined something like this could be possible." Teodoro, who had been quietly observing from the background, carefully weighed the situation. He knew it was delicate and that any wrong move could cause more pain for Nicholas or Roberta. "Nicholas, if this is true, there's a lot at stake here. It might be best to talk to your grandmother as soon as possible. She could give us more information," Teodoro suggested. Still processing the conversation, Nicholas nodded. "Yes, we can talk to her, but I'm not sure she'll like bringing up the subject of my father." Roberta, feeling a mixture of relief and anxiety, thanked both Nicholas and Teodoro. "Thank you so much for listening. I hope we can find some answers." Nicholas said goodbye and started preparing for his next performance, his mind racing with the new revelations and a growing desire to learn more about his past. Roberta also took her leave, feeling renewed hope at the possibility of a connection to the man who had meant so much to her. Teodoro walked Roberta to the door, deep in thought about the next steps, which would unfold soon. A hospital visit was quickly arranged, driven by the urgency of the situation. The following morning, Roberta and Nicholas arrived at the senior care wing, both carrying a mixture of nerves and hope. The atmosphere was calm as the hospital began to stir for a new day. Margarita lay in a shared hospital room, visibly weakened, but a warm smile spread across her face as she saw Roberta and Nicholas enter. Her eyes lit up with recognition when she saw Roberta. "Roberta Costa, after all these years, I thought you were dead," Margarita said with a weary smile. Her voice was frail but filled with emotion. "I can't believe you're here." Nicholas, eager for answers, watched with anticipation and a hint of nervousness. "You know this woman?" he asked, curiosity and apprehension in his voice. Margarita looked from Roberta to Nicholas, her expression filled with a blend of sorrow and love. "Yes, Nicholas. She's an old girlfriend of your father's. He told me she had died shortly after." "Well, it doesn't matter." Margarita paused before continuing. "Ah, Andre. My son. I can barely say his name without my heart breaking. He loved you so much, Nicholas, but he had to leave to protect you. I always wanted you to know the truth, but I never knew how to tell you." Margarita's words hit Nicholas like a blow. He remained silent for a moment, tears welling up in his eyes. The weight of his grandmother's revelation, confirming a truth he had never imagined, was almost too much to bear. Roberta, seeing Nicholas's reaction, felt a wave of mixed pain and relief. She stepped closer to him, her eyes filled with love and regret. "So, Roberta, you were my father's girlfriend, right? Do you know who my mother is?" Nicholas asked in disbelief. Roberta nodded, trying to keep her voice steady. "Actually, I'm your mother, Nicholas. I searched for Andre for a long time, and now I've finally found you." Roberta's words echoed in the room, and Nicholas stood still, trying to process the magnitude of the revelation. You're my mother?" he repeated slowly, as if trying to absorb this new reality. "And I never knew." Roberta moved closer to Nicholas, her gaze filled with deep love and sadness for the lost time. She reached out and gently touched his arm, her voice cracking slightly from the emotion. "I never stopped looking for you both. One day, your father took you away as a newborn, before we had even decided on your name. My first instinct was to go to your grandmother, but when I arrived, I found out the family had moved. I contacted the police, but I never found you. I'm so sorry for all the lost years, but I'm here now. We'll get through this together." Nicholas felt a mixture of joy and shock. Roberta's words brought a new understanding of his life and his past. He looked at the woman standing before him, and in that moment, the room was filled with intense emotions. Margarita watched with an expression of both worry and relief, knowing that her life's mission was nearly complete. Nicholas approached Roberta, his eyes filled with tears, realizing that the possibility of having a mother, someone he had always longed for, was finally becoming real. I don't know what to say," he murmured, his voice trembling. "I never imagined I'd find you like this." He held her hands, his heart racing with emotion. "There's no need for words right now," Roberta said softly. "We're here, and that's what matters. Let's start building a new life together." With the truth finally revealed, a new chapter began for Nicholas, Roberta, and Margarita. The revelation brought a flood of changes and new hopes, and they all began to plan for the future they had long dreamed of. Roberta, with her experience and financial resources, took control of the situation with calm determination. Margarita's surgery was scheduled quickly, and all the necessary arrangements were made to ensure she received the best possible care. Now, with the certainty of their family connection, Nicholas continued his performances at the restaurant, but with a different attitude. His heart felt lighter, and the pain he had carried for so long seemed to have lifted. The audience also noticed this change in his performances. There was a new depth and emotion in his songs, something only someone who had found inner peace could express. Every note carried the weight of renewed hope and a sense of newfound happiness. Teodoro and Denise were deeply moved by the family reunion. Having witnessed Nicholas's journey from the start, they felt like an essential part of his story. Teodoro, always the mentor and protector, was overjoyed to see the happiness of the young man and the peace that had finally found Roberta and Margarita. Denise, who had helped Nicholas sneak out of the orphanage for his performances, felt immense pride seeing the joy and fulfillment on his face. Her support and care had been crucial, and now she felt blessed to witness Nicholas's transformation. With Roberta and Margarita now fully involved in his life, they found balance despite the challenges they had faced. Together, they formed an unexpected yet strong bond, dedicating themselves to ensuring Nicholas had the support and stability he needed to move forward. The future looked bright, and with his talent and determination, Nicholas was ready to embrace every opportunity. The road ahead would still have its ups and downs, but with the support of his family and friends, who had always stood by him, he was finally prepared to face life with hope in his heart and peace of mind. And so, with the truth revealed and the family reunited, Nicholas, Roberta, and Margarita began writing a new chapter in their lives. Every step was guided by a renewed energy and love. They were ready to face the future with courage and determination, knowing that together, they could overcome any challenge that came their way. I hope you enjoyed this emotional and surprising story. If you liked it and want more heartwarming narratives like this, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel. Every story is a new adventure, and we're always ready to surprise you. Also, feel free to share your thoughts on the story and suggest ideas for future narratives. See you next time.